Welcome back, guys. I trust you're staying safe. Now, the ongoing case of Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrand took another crazy turn as they proceeded to custody court. And it's as if the case couldn't have gotten crazier as it is, but it did get more crazy, actually. If you are not familiar with the details of the case, maybe you just happen to chance on this video, just go back to my playlist and you see videos talking about the genesis of the issue, updates on it, through to this particular video now. When they went to court, these two women are actually facing 6 counts of felony child abuse leveled against each of them. And one would have expected that alone should trigger some form of change in attitude or thinking. But that wasn't the case, and I am not surprised. Because looking at the trajectory with which these women have been going about the things they do, I think that they are far gone in their own ways, and they have a mindset that in itself has probably corrupted them so much they believe they are on the right path and everybody else is either wrong or does not understand them. That is what I think. If you don't agree with me, just let me know in the comment section. If you do agree with me too, let me know in the comment section. Or if you have a different view altogether, just let me know in the comment section. Now, this is what transpired. When Ruby was ushered into the court, the custody hearing, she started talking about her kids, particularly one of them, that this kid, according to her, had allegedly been abusing her other siblings or his other siblings, and that this kid some way, somehow has had access to pornography and has since been sexually abusing his siblings and other children in the community as well. Now, when I heard this statement, my spirit just sank, because this is a statement coming from a mother about her own kid to the public. Not just that, there are pertinent questions that we need to look at. First of all, you are the mother of this kid. You are the parent. So how does this kid get access to sexually explicit content whilst under your care? That in itself is an indictment on Ruby Franke, if you ask me, because it means that you are not able to take good care of this kid, and by so doing, he has been able to gain access to these things. And giving her the benefit of the doubt, assuming she's even telling the truth that this kid did what she's saying she did with regards to the sexual abuse, I think there are better ways she could have handled this in the custody hearing than just putting it out there like that. This is a kid at a tender age who might not be fully aware of what he is doing, if even it's true, and is going to grow to have to deal with this on record and on the internet. Don't forget, the internet actually never forgets. So Ruby Franke has sort of left this trail that is going to follow her kid forever, irrespective of how this case turns out. And I think that she should have leaned more into her parental wisdom and made the decision not to put it out there like that. I believe there are other ways that she could have done this without putting this type of magnitude of embarrassment and future shame on the kid. That is my opinion. Again, like I said, how does this kid get access to sexually explicit content whilst in your custody? That alone is an indictment on her. And I think that this is also a classic display of what they are about. Prior to the custody hearing, a relative who wanted to remain anonymous granted an interview to a media house, and this person was saying that it is something that goes on in their family. He himself actually endured it. He saw some of his siblings endure it, where there were situations where They were denied food, they were bound with duct tape and kept literally as sort of prisoners as a way of disciplining them. Now, this person is also a Mormon and a church member of the Latter-day Saints Church, but went on to talk about the fact that this is not about the church, this is not about the worship or the religion, but this is something about a lineage from which Ruby Franke allegedly comes from. So he was not surprised she's been caught up in these things. So it begins to look like Ruby Franke herself might be a sort of a victim who is now generationally transferring what she was victimized with to her children now. That is one theory that might hold some form of water, although it does not exonerate her. Yeah. But then again, another person also came into the scene, a cousin to the kids of Ruby Franke, and she was talking about the fact that she has suffered similar treatments at the hands of Jody Hildebrandt, and that is what she does. She is known for that. She will bound you with duct tape. She will treat you the way and manner in which Ruby Franke's kids were found in, and that is a way to get you to be disciplined. It's a way to get you to actually accept that there's something wrong with you. Over time, you'll begin to think that you've done something wrong, when maybe in actual fact, you've actually not done anything wrong. So I think that what we have on our hands now is a classic case of deep-seated manipulation hidden with scriptures and memory verses and misconstrued such that people begin to buy into it and condone what it's being preached to them. I think that this is a deep level of manipulation and psychological warfare being perpetrated by these two women, and putting these things in the guise of religion and using it as a basis to sort of champion that conversation in itself is very dangerous, because at a point in time it begins to look cult-like, and I think that is where this case could be headed, because there is a sort of analysis going on looking at how things are unfolding, that there's a possibility that Ruby Franke herself could actually be a victim of Jody Hildebrandt, such that Jody Hildebrandt would then be the mastermind, the true villain in all this, and Ruby Franke is just like her lackey or her sidekick, who herself has been indoctrinated so much she feels she's in control, but she's also a victim who is now being used as a stepping stone to gain access to her kids and get them victimized. That is what I'm seeing here. But hey, I'm not the law courts. But the manipulation continued. And one of the relatives of Ruby Franke, who granted the interview but wanted to remain anonymous, went on to indicate and actually predicted that when they come to court, they are going to try and assert a certain level of dominance and shift the blame to the children. And that was exactly what played out. Because when they got to court, they actually made a statement that don't allow these kids to mingle with other children. Now, by that statement, to me, it looks like they are readily setting the tone to make it seem that there's something wrong with these children. And that will then push the possibility of the narrative to be considered that they were trying to solve a problem with the children, but maybe they didn't do it the right way. If you ask me, I don't think there's anything wrong with the kids. Granted, maybe there could be. Then they are the people who have made something wrong with the kids based on the treatment they've given her. Because if you recollect the facts of the case, these kids were being starved and tied up with duct tape such that they had lacerations from these duct tapes. That means they are tight and they would have been on their wrists for a long time. That is more like a torture, imprisonment, a kidnapping of a sort. And I still don't understand how this was not even happening in the mother's own home, that's Ruby Franke, but rather happening in the home of a third party. in the person of Jody Hildebrandt. So it seems more like an institutionalized torturing camp for children to discipline them, sort of. That's how it's looking to me. But then again, like I said, I'm not the court, but that is how I'm seeing it. I could be wrong though. But I think that these two women are going to show their true colors, and they've started showing it. It was a custody hearing, but then they decided to put out statements and so-called testimonies that made it seem like these kids had a problem and there was something wrong with them. And I think that is very unfortunate. Another thing that happened was somebody got up and was trying to sway the conversation to where other parents are now coming to talk about what is wrong with these kids. And it got me thinking, there's a possibility, these guys have been on the internet, social media for some time, and there's a high possibility they have already indoctrinated some parents. Some of these parents could also try to influence how the proceedings will go. Although I don't think the court will be vulnerable to succumb to that. But I think that there is possible that there could be attempts by some of these people to sort of come in to give testimonies to either make the children look at fault or make Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke seem like great people who have just been caught up in a misunderstood scenario. Either way, I think that it was very shameful for Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt to try to throw these children under the bus just to save themselves. I'm following this case. Her husband, Kevin Franke, was also at the court hearing, and he had a straight face on. And it left me thinking, why would the father sit there silent as his wife denigrates the image of their children by labeling him as somebody who is a sexual deviant and doing all these things to his siblings and other kids? But then another video I'm going to put out is going to share Kevin Franke's side of things, as has been put out in an interview by his attorney. And I think that once you watch that video as well, you also begin to appreciate how these things played out at the other end without the husband's notice, if it's true. This is what he has put out through his lawyer by name Randy Kester, and I'm going to detail out all those things in my next video. So subscribe, turn on post notifications if you haven't yet done so. What do you think about Ruby Franke? Is she a victim or a co-conspirator with Jody Hildebrandt? I'll catch you next time. Stay safe out there.